are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final,
keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Friday, September 27th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that Super Chat button in the chat. This will create a Super Chat for a thought or comment you may have that I can acknowledge during the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So, let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the Cowboys once again defeating the New York Giants by a score of 20-15 last night. We'll go over that game. We'll recap it. I'll give you my thoughts on it. In the second part of the show, we'll talk about some updates regarding Christian McCaffrey, and it seems like he's going to be out for more of an extended period of time. So we'll get into that. We will preview the big Sunday Night Football matchup between the Bills and the Ravens. And then the remaining two segments, we'll take a look at some of the big matchups in college football this weekend, the early slate of games on Sunday, and then in the final part of the show, we'll take a look at some of the late window games on Sunday for Week 4. So, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the Giants-Cowboys game. So, going into this game, I did say I didn't believe it was going to be a 40-0 Cowboy win like last year at MetLife. I thought this game would be more competitive, and it was. However, the score, it was more low scoring than I thought, because I said 28-20 Cowboys. The Giants only kicked field goals in this game, and it was kind of it wasn't as exciting as I think we would have hoped maybe. But Cowboys get the win. They needed this game, and they got it. They improved to 2-2 on the season, and the Giants dropped to 1-3. So the Giants really couldn't enjoy their victory against the Browns. Short week and already back to where they were before the game against the Browns. So let's kind of go through the game summary first. So the Cowboys, they got the ball to start, and they went 3-and-out. So that was important for the Giants. And then the Giants put together a nice drive. Daniel Jones connected with Malik Nabers for 39 yards. And the Giants were set up pretty good. And it was 2nd and 7 from the Dallas 37, and Jones gained 4 yards on the play. However, there was a penalty on Daniel Bellinger, a face mask, that pushed them back 15 yards. Now, I didn't see it initially, so I had to go back and look. And, there was a lot of people complaining about the officials last night, and this is one of the calls, because Bellinger, his face mask was getting grabbed by the Cowboys player, but they called the face mask on Bellinger. So that pushed the Giants back to 2nd and 18 from the Dallas 48. So that was kind of a drive killer. Now, they did end up getting points out of it, but that really just changed the whole complexion of that drive, because then they had to kick a field goal here, and Greg Joseph from 52 yards out, who's perfect last night. So that made it 3-0. So the Giants actually were winning against the Cowboys. I thought I would never see the day, honestly. But yeah, it was 3-0, and then the Cowboys quickly changed that because they went 12 plays, 75 yards, about 7 minutes of time of possession down the field, and they ended up scoring a touchdown. Dak Prescott threw a little screen pass to Rico Dowdle, and he scored. However, there was a penalty on the play. It was a holding penalty, so it looked like it was going to come back, but then all of a sudden the refs just picked up the flag, and the touchdown ended up being they ended up upholding the touchdown. And that was another play that fans were complaining about. Why did the refs just pick up the flag? But they ended up doing that. Cowboys were leading 7-3. Giants then put together another drive that resulted in another field goal by Greg Joseph, so that made it 7-6. Then in the second quarter, Cowboys scored a touchdown, a big touchdown. Dak Prescott connecting with CeeDee Lamb, who ended up getting a taunting penalty, and it was a 55-yard touchdown. Not a great play by Deonte Banks in that secondary of the Giants. And that's the one guy that they really had to stop in this game, and they weren't able to on that play. And that honestly made a difference in the game. That and the refs picking up the flag. So, yeah. But actually, I wanted to go back to the Giants drive before that because Daniel Jones was trying to hit Darius Slayton on a free play from 3rd and 14, and he underthrew it, and it got picked off. Now, there was a defensive offsides penalty on it, but still, I mean, Jones has got to put more air underneath that ball. So after the Cowboys go up 14-6, the Giants put together another field goal drive. Greg Joseph from 38 yards out made it 14-9. Cowboys punted, so it was 14-9 at the half. So the Giants still had an opportunity to try to win this game. And then they opened up the third quarter. They went 11 plays, 77 yards, 6 minutes, 18 seconds of time of possession. Greg Joseph, another field goal, a 22-yarder. Now, Brian Dable got some criticism, at least from Sports Talk Radio here on the East Coast, that maybe he should have went for it on 4th and 3. And, yeah, I mean, maybe he could have. But, I mean, at that point, it's 14-9. It was a 2-point game after that. So I'm not really going to kill him for that. Then the Cowboys, they put together a drive. Brandon Aubrey from 60 yards. And that made it 17-12. A couple of punts. Giants then put together another nice drive, but that resulted in a field goal. Greg Joseph, 42-yard field goal. So that made it 17-15. Cowboys kicked another field goal on their next drive. Brandon Aubrey from 40 yards out. Giants then turned it over on downs on their next drive. And then Aubrey missed a 51-yard field goal. But there was really no time left. There was 32 seconds left on the clock. The Giants weren't able to get anything going there. And Jones got intercepted at the end of the game, and the Cowboys won. But there were some key injuries in this game. Micah Parsons got banged up in this game. Trayvon Diggs got banged up in this game. DeMarcus Lawrence, Malik Neighbors towards the end of the game. Giants were going for it on 4th down. This was the second to last drive. It was 4th and 6. Tried to hit Malik Neighbors, and it looked like Neighbors was able to haul it in, but he wasn't able to. But scary situation on the sideline there as he went to the ground, and he ended up getting concussed. So he was not on the field on the last drive. But, yeah, a lot of injuries in this game to key guys. And, you know, for the Cowboys, I mean, their defense already isn't playing well, and they only got 1 sack last night, which I was a little surprised, but you got to give the Giants offensive line credit. I mean, that's one positive you could also look at from this game is the Giants offensive line is much improved compared to years past. DeMarcus Lawrence was the only one that got to Daniel Jones, 1 sack. Dak Prescott went 22 of 27 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Rico Dowdle, 11 carries for 46 yards. Ezekiel Elliott had 5 for 19. CeeDee Lamb, of course, was the leading receiver, 7 receptions for 98 yards and a touchdown. Jacob Ferguson had 7 for 49. For the Giants, Daniel Jones I didn't think played bad, but wasn't really a difference maker in this game. He went 29 of 40 for 281 yards and a touchdown. Giants ran the ball 24 carries for 26 yards. And that was something that, going into this game, you thought the Giants were going to have an advantage. Because the Cowboys' defense was giving up a ton of points, ton of yards, couldn't stop anything. You thought the Giants were going to be able to find success in the running game, and they just didn't. And Devin Singletary, it looked like he fumbled in this game, but he was ruled down, as the ball looks like it's starting to move around and come out. But that would have been his 3rd fumble. Malik Neighbors, of course, had a big game, 12 receptions for 115 yards, was targeted 15 times. Wan'Dale Robinson also had a good game too. Was targeted 14 times, 11 receptions for 71 yards. He's a good player for them. And as for the Giants defense, only 1 sack by Kayvon Thibodeau. So last week, you're all over the Browns, but couldn't get to Dak Prescott. Just couldn't do it. Greg Joseph was the player of the game for the Giants. 5 for 5 on field goals. So it's just kind of funny how the Giants, they lose a game where they score 3 touchdowns and their opponent kicks 7 field goals and their opponent wins. But when the Giants just kick all field goals, they can't win. And they had a lot of opportunities. And again, I don't think Daniel Jones played bad, but again, he's not a difference maker at quarterback. And that's why the Giants are going to have to go in a different direction. But, you know, and time of possession, I'm looking at it right now. The Giants had the ball for almost 36 minutes to the Cowboys' 24. You know, like, they had the ball more than the Cowboys, and still, they could not get the win here. And you look at the total yards. I mean, the total yards actually were pretty close. Giants had 303 total yards. Cowboys had 293. Giants ran 14 more plays than the Cowboys, too. But just could not get anything going. And, you know, for the Cowboys here, you know, you hope that your guys are okay. I think Trayvon Diggs, you know, when I saw him go down, you thought, oh, no, that's not good. But I think that was just cramping. Micah Parsons, I think, he was dealing with a concussion as well, and he got carted off. So, yeah, and then you had DeMarcus Lawrence get hurt. So the Cowboys are just getting hurt by injuries. And I'm going to see if I can just look quickly. So, yeah, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence headed for MRIs. I thought they said something about Micah Parsons dealing with a concussion, but yeah, it's just, that's not good. Yeah, so it was a foot injury for DeMarcus Lawrence, and then for Micah Parsons, we can just look that up very quickly. Oh, yeah, so his ankle. I thought they said something about a concussion too, but it doesn't make sense because he had, you know, his shoe was off as he was getting carted off. But yeah, so he's got an ankle, get an MRI on his ankle, and then DeMarcus Lawrence a foot. So those are their 2 biggest stars on defense. So if you lose them and your defense is already not playing well, that's a problem. But yeah, I wasn't really impressed by the Cowboys in this game. You know, again, I still think that they're going to be a team that will be in the mix for a playoff spot, but they just don't look good. They really don't. They don't have a threat outside of CeeDee Lamb. They can't run the football. And it really does make me wonder, like, should they elevate Dalvin Cook? I really do think they should. Give him a chance. I mean, how bad could it be? You know, Ezekiel Elliott's really a non-factor. Rico, you got to have somebody else to complement Rico Dowdle, who isn't really great either. But he was the best back last night. So, I don't know. But, yeah, the Cowboys continue their dominance over the Giants, even though this really wasn't that convincing of a victory. I mean, I think this is more reflective on the Cowboys and just that, you know, they're not the same team that they have been these last couple of years. They still have a lot of talent, but maybe the talent's not as much as, you know, previous years. So, and now you got guys getting hurt on the defensive side of the ball that are your best defensive players, but your defense is already not playing well. So, but yeah, that's my thoughts on the game. Let me know what you guys think about it. You know, just a disappointing loss for the Giants. A game they could have won, but, you know, they just kept kicking field goals, and you're not going to be able to do that. Unless you're the Commanders, you're not going to be able to win games by kicking field goals. So, with that, we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we will talk about Christian McCaffrey. I'll give you an update on his injury update, and that he could miss an extended period of time. So we'll get into that when we come back from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient. Hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing. Sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about Christian McCaffrey. I'll talk about injury update regarding him. So, actually, speaking of injury update, so Micah Parsons, the ankle injury, got x-rays. They were negative, but yeah, he's going to get an MRI like DeMarcus Lawrence. And then Malik Neighbors, I saw a post on social media that he's all good after suffering that concussion. So, I think that's where the confusion came with me is because I knew Neighbors had one, but I don't know why I thought Parsons had one, but yeah. So yeah, Parsons x-rays negative on the ankle. Malik Neighbors seems like he's all good. And the Giants, they don't play till next Sunday, so at least this gives them a little bit of extra time for Neighbors to get right, and then hopefully he plays when they take on Seattle. So anyways, let's talk about Christian McCaffrey. So a lot of mixed reports yesterday because there was one that said he could miss up to a couple of months. And then, Kyle Shanahan's talking about them getting a better idea over the next couple of weeks. Because McCaffrey ended up going to a specialist in Germany about the Achilles tendonitis that he's dealing with and the calf injury. And, yeah, there were some reports that he was going to miss up to a couple of months, which is not good news for the Niners because he just plays such an important role with this team. And, Jordan Mason has done a nice job filling in for him. And I do think, if you get George Kittle back this week, you get Deebo Samuel back next week, the offense should be fine until McCaffrey comes back. My problem is the defense. The defense has not played well these last couple of weeks. And they got to get that situated because if their defense is just going to give up a bunch of points, then that's a whole separate issue. And, I'm not worried about the 49ers, like I keep saying that, but there are concerns. So, yeah, again, there's another report. Christian McCaffrey to test readiness sooner than later. So, I guess that means maybe he's not going to miss a couple months because, again, you go back to yesterday, there was a report that McCaffrey was probably closer to a couple of months away from coming back. And I actually forgot I wanted to throw up a graphic here or an image. But yeah, I was. It's very interesting how there's just mixed reports. But yeah, he's going to test readiness sooner rather than later. 49ers are turning up for Christian McCaffrey in the next couple of weeks. So, again, we'll see what happens. But, again, he just plays an important role with this team. And, you don't want to see him out. He's one of the best players in the NFL, and you want to see him, out there playing. Because when this 49ers offense is 100%, I mean, it's arguably the best offense in football. And it's just a huge loss. And right now the 49ers are 1-2. They're taking on a Patriots team that I think they should beat so they can even their record up. And like I said, hopefully they're getting George Kittle back. It looks like they are going to get him back this week, maybe. Because he has been limited in practice these last 2 days, so maybe that means he's going to play. I mean, I'm hoping he does for also fantasy purposes as well. Deebo Samuel hopefully comes back the following week with his calf injury. But, yeah, injuries have just been... I said it before the season, but you could that that could go out the window with what I said. Just hoping that there wasn't going to be as many injuries as last year. Well, look at how many stars have gotten hurt. Last night's game, you had, a trio of Cowboy defensive players, and then, of course, you have Malik Neighbors who gets a concussion at the end of the game. So, yeah, injuries are just going to continue to plague this NFL season, which doesn't surprise me, but you wish that wasn't the case. But it's just kind of odd how this Christian McCaffrey situation has kind of unfolded, because I remember him saying that he felt like he was going to play in week 1, and then he's just been kept out. Now he goes to see a specialist in Germany. Now we're hearing he's going to be out a couple months, then we'll get a better idea in a couple of weeks. So it's just, there's so many mixed signals with what's going on with McCaffrey that you don't really know. But either way, he's going to be out for a while. We're just going to put it like that. And can the 49ers survive without McCaffrey? I think they can, but like I said, they got to get the defense situated, because they have, like I said, they've struggled. Last week against the Rams, that was a team that is even more beat up than your team, and you were up by 10 points, and you let them come back. Now, you got Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford on the other side, so it's not like, I don't look, I'm down on the Rams with the injuries. After that win, I'm a little encouraged. Like, okay, maybe they could tread water for a little bit until they get, their guys back, their offensive line healthy, their top receivers back. But I was down on the Rams. And I have great respect for Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, but I just felt like a lot of these injuries, it's going to be tough to overcome. And on top of that, they got a young defense. But to give them credit, they came back against the Niners. Now, late in the game, if Ronnie Bell catches that pass, maybe we're having a different conversation, because that was a key moment in that game that I didn't bring up when I talked about the game. But defense has got to play better, and they're missing guys, and they're dealing with injuries as well. Javon Hargrave is going to be out for at least the rest of the regular season. You're still waiting on Dre Greenlaw to come back. The secondary is really the problem, and that's been a problem for a while. It's just the 49ers are able to get pressure with Nick Bosa and those guys up front that, the secondary isn't as much of a concern as, it should be. But, you go up against some of these better teams with good quarterbacks, because they're going to be going up against Patrick Mahomes this year. They're going to be going up against Josh Allen. They're going to be going to Lambeau to take on Jordan Love. And we'll see what kind of season he has when he comes back from his injury. And it looks like, hopefully he plays on Sunday. So, yeah, you go up against some of these quarterbacks. Look at what happened when they played Joe Burrow last year. Joe Burrow played really well against that Niners defense. Mahomes took over the game in the fourth quarter. Let's not forget the Lions. The Lions, I think, when they play each other, that's a monster game. Lions are going to have to run the football against this defense, because it worked really well in the playoffs last year. It's just for some reason they didn't do that. But I think the 49ers, they can survive without McCaffrey. However, you look at the NFC West, and you see that the Seahawks are 3-0. Now, they do match up with them, I think, in Week 5. That's a big game. That's a big game early on. And I don't think the standings are going to stay the same. I do think the Seahawks are going to, they're going to lose their fair share of games. But yeah, right now they're 3-0, everybody else is 1-2. I think that's when they play, right? Yeah, week 6. Week 6, my mistake, cuz they take on the Giants next week. That's right. Yeah, so the Seahawks have the Lions, a team that they don't lose against, but maybe this is different. Then they take on the Giants at home. Then they take on the Niners at home. And that's a Thursday night game. So That could be a big game. For the Niners, their next 2 games, they take on the Patriots and the Cardinals at home. So, and the Cardinals, that game's not going to be easy. Not going to be easy. Divisional game, and I think Kyler Murray and that offense will play well enough to make this game competitive when we get to it. But the bigger problem is the defense. I mean, the offense, Brock Purdy played really well on Sunday. And that was without McCaffrey, without Debo, without Kittle. Brandon Ayuk hasn't really done much. It was the Brock Purdy, Juwan Jennings show. So, you know, I think as long as you give Purdy protection, they'll be okay. But got to straighten out the defense. That's really what it comes down to. So, but yeah, it's just unfortunate that, you know, McCaffrey might be out for longer than, you know, we were hoping. We were hoping he'd be back sooner. But we'll just have to keep an eye on it, and we'll see what happens. So, but the Niners, they got a game coming up against the Patriots, which I think they should win. I would pick them to win that game and cover, because the Patriots' offense is not good. The defense is still a solid unit. But, you know, we saw last week against the Jets. That Jets defense was able to get, you know, put pressure on Jacoby Brissett. It was a long day for that offense. And the 49ers, they have the defensive line to do it with Nick Bosa. So, we'll see what happens. But, and the other thing, too, is, like I said, Jordan Mason has done a nice job filling in for McCaffrey. Now, he's not Christian McCaffrey, but he's run the football effectively. You know, he might not have a monster game. Like, I think he only had like 70 yards rushing in the game against the Rams. He's not going to go off every single week. But you know what? I think he could do good enough where you get your other guys back, their offense will be okay. The big concern is the defense going forward. That's my thoughts on it. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, in the comments. Can the 49ers survive without Christian McCaffrey? I do think they can. I'm not going to hit the panic button because McCaffrey's going to be out. Because I think what's encouraging is Brock Purdy played well against the Rams with, you know, down 3 of his best weapons. So if he could continue to play like that, they'll be okay. It's just the defense needs to figure it out. That's what I would be worried about. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. So, before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit the super chat button in the chat. This will create a super chat of any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. I will acknowledge it. And it just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCpodcast.net. That is GSMCpodcast.net. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will get into previewing the Ravens-Bills game. We'll talk about that when we come back from our second break of the show. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the Bills-Ravens game for this weekend. That's, one of the biggest games of the weekend. I mean, you could definitely point to some other games as well. I know Packers-Vikings, that game has some heavy implications. Early on, especially if Jordan Love comes back. But this game is huge, I think. You got two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Josh Allen right now is playing like the best quarterback in the NFL. I mean, obviously, that crown still does go to Patrick Mahomes, but at least right now, Josh Allen is playing like the best quarterback, and he is the front runner for MVP early on in this season. So, these two teams, the last time they met was like early on in the 2022 season. The Bills had a comeback win in that game, and that was in Baltimore. Wrong thing. Here we go. Yeah, so it was a comeback win for the Bills. And Lamar Jackson, he won the first matchup between these two quarterbacks, but then in the playoffs they matched up during the COVID season. Josh Allen won that game, and then they won. Josh Allen won against Lamar in that comeback win, like I said, from a couple of years ago. I think that's it. I don't know if I'm missing any other matchups, but I think that's it. I'm just gonna do a quick check here. But yeah, this is this is gonna be an interesting game. The Bills are coming in as the hottest team in the NFL right now at 3-0. Yeah, so Lamar has a 2-1 record against Josh Allen. Actually, that's interesting because so I guess I am missing another game. But yeah, Josh Allen beat him in the playoffs though. But yeah, the Bills are coming in at 3-0. Ravens coming in at 1-2. They picked up their first win against the Dallas Cowboys, a game that they almost ended up losing. Cowboys almost came back, but that didn't happen. So yeah, this is a big game early on. And the Bills, like I said, they are playing really well right now. That dominating performance against the Jaguars, I don't think they're going to do that in this game. This game is going to be a lot closer. This is going to be competitive. But, yeah, it's going to be a tough game on both sides. How are the Bills, how are they going to handle the rushing attack of the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, with Derrick Henry? Derrick Henry coming off of a good game against the Cowboys, a couple touchdowns. How are the Ravens going to slow down this Bills offense with Josh Allen and him spreading the ball around? And that's something that he emphasized going into the season, is spreading the ball around. And this version of the Bills offense is really clicking right now. Because you don't have that one guy that you got to force feed the ball. And that's kind of what it was with Stephon Diggs. And, Stephon Diggs is a very good receiver, and he was very productive for the Bills in the years that he was with Buffalo. But now, you got young guys like Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir that are playing well. You got the tight ends, Curtis Samuel, James Cook. You could throw passes to him out of the backfield. There's a lot of different ways the Bills can beat you. And, of course, you got Josh Allen, who could take off and run with it himself. The Bills look really good right now. And, for the Ravens, they should be 2-1 had they not blown that 10-point lead at home to the Raiders but that ended up happening. For some reason, Gardner Minshew owns the Ravens. So to kind of look at their rankings, so the Bills surprisingly are 17th in passing yards per game. I mean, Josh Allen really didn't have to do much in week 2 against the Dolphins. The Bills' defense dominated that game. Josh Allen, James Cook had a big game. Josh Allen really didn't have to do much. Ravens are 11th in passing yards per game, 234 passing yards per game. And in terms of rushing, the Ravens are 2nd in rushing yards per game, 203.3 rushing yards. To the Bills, who are 14th, they're averaging 120. Then, in terms of points per game, Bills are first, averaging 37.3, and the Ravens are 11th, averaging 23.7. Then for the defense, the Bills are 11th against the pass, 16th against the run, and 7th in points allowed. The Ravens are 32nd against the pass, 1st against the run, and then 24th in points allowed, giving up 26 points per game. So you look at that and you think, yeah, advantage Bills, right? For me, though, I actually am going to lean towards taking the Ravens in this game. It's hard for me to see them lose their first 2 home games. Now, can it happen? Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being the case. But I do think that the Bills are due for at least 1 loss here. And this is going to be a tough game in Baltimore. And Josh Allen hasn't thrown an interception this year. And that's been the key to the Bills' success, or one of the keys to the Bills' success, is Josh Allen being able to, minimize, or right now at least eliminate the turnovers. So we'll see what happens now taking on the Ravens, because this is the best. Now, record-wise, the Ravens should have a better record, but this is the best team that the Bills will have gone up against so far. The Cardinals, they look like they're going to be better than a lot of people anticipated. The Dolphins, I guess, were the best opponent at that point, even though it was only week 2. But the Bills kind of always beat the Dolphins. And then they just played the Jaguars, who look like one of the worst teams in football. So this is the best opponent that the Bills will have gone up against up to this point. And again, I think it's going to be a very competitive game. I think it'll be very close. I think it wouldn't surprise me if the game is a 3-point game. But yeah, I got the Ravens winning a close one. I'm gonna say 24-21. I'm gonna say that's the final score. A little bit more low scoring, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, the Bills, I don't see them going up and down the field and not punting until the 4th quarter again. That's not going to happen in this game. But I'm curious to see how it goes. For the Ravens, you'd like to see guys like Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely get more involved. Isaiah Likely had a monster week 1, but it's been quiet since then. It's probably because I have him in my fantasy lineup now, which I kind of figured that was what was going to happen, but still. Want to see, Zay Flowers maybe get more involved too. If the Ravens are going to be throwing it in this game, which they are, but you want to see those guys get more involved. But yeah, I mean, if the game plan is run it with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, you find success in the running game, you continue to do that. Because that's what the Ravens are. They're more of a running team. But you'd like to see some of these pass catchers get more involved. How is this Ravens defense going to stop Josh Allen? What are they going to cook up? I mean, I don't think they're really going to stop him, but they're going to try to at least slow it down. The Bills are going to put up points in this game, and the Ravens are going to have to keep up. If they can keep this game close, they could play their style of running the football. But if they're going to have to throw it a bunch of times, that could be a problem. But really, the issue for the Ravens is being able to close out games. They, for some reason, just can't do that. I mean, week 2 against the Raiders, they blow that 10-point lead. And then, against the Cowboys, they almost let the Cowboys come back. But, there was an onside kick in that game, so I mean, that kind of factored into the Cowboys making a push for a comeback. But that's something that they got to clean up. They definitely have to clean it up. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, 24-21, I have the Ravens winning, to even up their record at 2-2. Because yeah, they don't want to go to 1-3. On top of that, you got the Bengals who are 0-3 in their division right now. It's really surprising what the AFC North looks like right now. But it's not going to stay that way. It's going to change. But you got to give credit to the Steelers, the start that they've gotten off to. The Browns, that's the team that might end up finishing in last place, to be honest, the way things are going. So we'll see how it goes, but this could be another good game between these two quarterbacks, and we will see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. How do you see this game playing out? It's going to be one of the best games of the weekend, in my opinion. So, yeah, it should be a lot of fun to watch this game. So, we're going to take our next break, and then when we come back, we will talk about the big college football matchups for this weekend. We'll kind of take a look back at week 4 in college football, but then we'll also look at the early slate of games in the NFL. We'll take a look at those. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely some good games in college football to keep an eye on. Even the games last week, there were some that were very good. I was able to catch the end of the Baylor-Colorado game, but I actually missed, one of the big plays in that game towards the end that kind of set up the overtime. But that was a good game. Yeah, we'll get into all those games, and then obviously, like I said, we'll take a look at some of the big matchups for this weekend. We got Alabama, Georgia, which is always fun to see those teams match up, and then also get into talking about the early slate of games for Sunday in the NFL. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're now going to get into previewing / recapping games in college football, and then as well as previewing the early games for Sunday as well. So we'll kind of take a look back at some of the big games last week. So you did have an overtime game on Friday between Illinois and Nebraska. Illinois picking up the win, 31-24. They were a 9-point underdog in that game, and they won in overtime. They improved to 4-0 on the season. You also had wacky game with UNC and what was it? It was JMU. So they scored 50 points in the first half. It was like 50. I'm trying to look for the game on CBS here, but it was a wacky game. I don't know why I can't find it, of course, because there's so many games to look through. I'll try. So James Madison, 70-50 was the final score. So yeah, they had 53 points in the first half. It was 53-21, and the final score ended up being 70-50. You would have thought that was a college basketball game. So that was a crazy game. Like I said, I caught the end of Colorado Baylor, and I did not realize that Shedeur Sanders threw a Hail Mary at the end of regulation to tie the game, and they ended up winning in overtime. Also, Michigan picked up a big win over USC, winning 27-24. They ran the football in this game. They ran it for almost 300 yards, 290 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. Their quarterback, they benched their other quarterback, but they started Alex in this game. And, he ended up picking up the win, not really doing much, just handed the ball off, and Michigan got the win. Miller Moss had 3 touchdowns in the game. He had 283 yards. But, yeah, that was a big win for Michigan at home. Close game there. You had Mizzou winning a close one against Vanderbilt, 30-27. We're going to see Miami playing tonight. They won their game 50-15. Tennessee beat Oklahoma 25-15. Iowa won their matchup against the Golden Gophers 31-14. Boston College beat Michigan State 23-19. And Arch Manning, 15-29, 257 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, starting for Texas, 51-3. They won their matchup as well. BYU was all over Kansas State, 38-9. So, some interesting games on the from the games from last week. Utah beat Oklahoma State 22-19. So Arkansas beat Auburn 24-14. Penn State all over Kent State 56-0. Navy beat Memphis 56-44. But yeah, let's kind of take a look at some of the big games for this week. So tonight you got Virginia Tech against the Hurricanes. Hurricanes are 17.5-point favorites. And then you got Rutgers and Washington, which, it could be a good game as well. Rutgers is 3-0. Washington is 3-1 on the season. Then for Saturday, BYU against Baylor. You got Kentucky, who played Georgia pretty tough. I mean, Georgia only won 13-12 a couple weeks ago. So that could be an interesting game. You got Oklahoma State, who's 20th in the country. Kansas State, 23rd. They're both 3-1. Maryland and Indiana. Got Michigan playing Minnesota. But yeah, the big matchup here is, of course, Alabama and Georgia. And that game will be played 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. Right now, Alabama is a 1-point favorite. Yeah, it's a tough game to pick. Alabama's 4th right now. Georgia's number 2 ranked in the country. You got Illinois and Penn State on at 7:30 as well. That's an interesting game. And then also you have Ohio State and Michigan State on Peacock. So those are three games that I definitely want to keep an eye on. You also have Arizona and Utah at 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. That could be interesting. So, yeah, some good games on the slate. We'll see how it goes. And then to move on to the NFL, we'll take a look at the early slate of games. So you got the Falcons and the Saints. Falcons coming off of a loss against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, 22-17 for the Saints. Losing that tough game to the Eagles, 15-12. I like the Falcons to bounce back in this game. Again, losing back-to-back home games is tough. I don't think they will. I think they get the win here. I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing from the Falcons. I think, they're going to start clicking at some point, and then, it's possible they take over this division. I know last year, they split. Saints destroyed them in the final week of the regular season, but I don't see that here. I see the Falcons winning this game. It's going to be close, but I like the Falcons in this game. Right now, they're 2.5-point favorites. I like them to cover the number. Then you got the Bengals and the Panthers. You got Andy Dalton facing off against his former team. The Bengals got a lot of problems, especially on defense. And Trent Brown, torn patella tendon out for the rest of the year. So that's a big injury on that offensive line. I like the Panthers to cover, but again, the Bengals, I think, should win this game, right? I mean, I know they lost to the Commanders. The defense was not good. The Bengals, are they really going to go to 0-4? I don't see that happening. So I like the Bengals to win. However, I do like the Panthers to cover the spread. Right now they're 4.5-point underdogs. I'm going to say this game is close, but I think the Bengals win. Rams-Bears is a tough game because the Bears' offensive line is struggling. The Rams got a ton of injuries. It's a tough game to pick. Right now, the Bears are 3-point favorites. I think in my spread pool right now, the line was at 2.5, and that's where it stays. So it could be a 3-point game. I'm going to say this is the game where Caleb Williams and that offense really gets it going. They started to get it going last week against the Colts. The Rams, their defense is not great. They're banged up. I think the Bears' defense will take advantage of the banged-up offensive line that the Rams have. So I actually do like the Bears to win this game, but I don't feel great about it. So, yeah, I'll take the Bears. Vikings and Packers. So we're still waiting on, is Jordan Love going to play? He has been practicing, was practicing with pads this week. So maybe he plays. If he doesn't, sorry, had to hold back a sneeze again. Always happens at least once on the show. But anyways, so the Packers, 2.5-point favorites. Jordan Love does play in this game. I don't know. I think either way, because Jordan Love is still, going to have to, I don't know if you want to call it rust, but he hasn't played in a couple weeks. So he might be a little rusty. But either way, yeah, I'd probably lean towards the Vikings. The Vikings are playing really good right now. Sam Darnold's a little banged up, but I think that defense is going to give the Packers offense problems regardless of who plays quarterback. I know the Packers defense is playing well this year. Well, past couple weeks has played well. So, but yeah, I like the Vikings to get the win here. It's going to be a tough game, though. Jaguars and Texans. Texans are right now 6-point favorites. In my spread pool, I think it was at 4.5. Jaguars are playing really bad right now. I think they could cover that 6-point spread. But then again, I picked them to, cover against the Bills. The Texans, they might be without Joe Mixon again this week, so that's, that's going to hurt them in the running game. Cam Akers did score a touchdown, but I like the Texans to win this game. I picked them in my spread pool because the spread was 4.5, but 6 is a big number. But you know what, the Jags, they just don't look like they're going to get out of this funk that they're in. It's more than a funk. But, yeah, I like the Texans to win. I'm going to say they cover the 6. Then we got the Steelers and the Colts. Steelers coming off that 20-10 victory over the Chargers. Colts coming off of their win over the Bears, 21-16. I like the Steelers to win this game. Anthony Richardson, he'll make some plays where you're like, that was really impressive. But then, like I said when I talked about the game the other day, then he'll throw a bad interception. And the Steelers' defense is playing really well right now. Justin Fields is not turning the ball over. They're the better team going in this game. I like them to win here in this spot. Then a couple more games here. You got the Broncos visiting the New York Jets. Jets are 7.5-point favorites. Broncos coming off of a shocking victory, 26-7 over the Buccaneers. Jets coming off of that 24-3 victory over the Patriots. They had, a mini bye week playing last Thursday. I like the Jets to win and cover. And I say that very confidently. The Bucs, they were banged up on defense. And we'll talk about them in a second. Aaron Rodgers is starting to play really well. Looked good against the Patriots, was getting out of the pocket. The Broncos' defense might give them some problems, but I think the Jets are the better team in this game, and I think they should win by a couple of scores and cover that number. But, again, nothing would surprise me. Then the Eagles take on the Buccaneers. Bucs are 1.5-point underdogs. Eagles, they showed me something last week against the Saints. They had almost 500 yards of total offense. This was without A.J. Brown. Don't know if he's going to play in this game or not. They might be down Devontae Smith as well. But I actually do like the Eagles to win this game. I do. I don't feel great about it. And you're probably saying, oh, you're already jumping off the Baker Mayfield bandwagon. No. But I don't like this matchup for the Bucs. They're coming off of a loss against the Broncos. They're still banged up. Eagles are banged up too, but, the defense really showed me something last week against the Saints, shutting down that offense. And I think they're going to shut down, they might shut down the Bucs offense here. So I actually will take the Eagles to win and, cover the spread. So to go through the early slate, got the Falcons, Panthers, covering, Bears, Vikings, Texans, Steelers, Jets, and the Eagles. So let me know what you guys think, though, about those picks. Give me some of your picks in the comments, whether it's college football related or in the NFL. I gotta figure something out for college football, a little parlay to maybe put together for tomorrow. So we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we will talk about the late window games. I know we went over the Sunday night game, but we will talk about the late afternoon games, I should say, since we previewed the Sunday night game. And that will be it for the show for today. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to take a look at the late afternoon games for Sunday in the NFL, preview them, talk about them, and give you my picks for them. So let's get into them. So we're going to start off with the Commanders and the Cardinals. So the Cardinals coming off of a loss against the Lions, 20-13. Commanders, upset victory over the Bengals, 38-33. And right now the over-under is 50. I would take the over in that game. Now, you think it would be that easy because you know what's going to end up happening? It's not going to hit. But the Cardinals are 3.5-point favorites. Now, the Cardinals' defense actually has not been bad this year. They actually, held the Lions in check a little bit. I mean, the Lions, it's not like they blew the Cardinals out. They won by 7 points. I mean, week 1 against the Bills, I mean, they just couldn't stop Josh Allen. They were, they were up by multiple scores, but, Josh Allen came roaring back. So you can't really, you can understand that. But here, the Commanders, they're riding high after that win in Cincy. And, you got two young mobile quarterbacks here in Kyler Murray and Jaden Daniels. I think we could see a game that's very high scoring. The Commanders, it seemed like they really got it going on offense. And, maybe that's just a product of the Bengals defense not playing well, but, it definitely was. But you also got to give them credit, too. That pass to Terry McLaurin to ice the game for that touchdown, that was a great play. They got to get him, they got to continue to keep him involved. They're not going to be they're going to have no Austin Eckler in this game, who had that touchdown run early on. So, that's a loss in this game. They're going to feel that. But I think the Commanders keep it within the number. I'll take them with the points. I don't feel great about it, but this should definitely be, this is an underrated game of the weekend with these two offenses going at it. So I like the Commanders to cover, but I actually will take the Cardinals to win. Then you got the Patriots and the 49ers. Patriots are 10.5-point underdogs. They're coming off of that 24-3 loss to the Jets. 49ers coming off of that 27-24 loss to the Rams. I think the 49ers bounce back here. I mean, I said it early on in the show. I do think that even without, Deebo Samuel, without Christian McCaffrey, I'm hoping George Kittle at least plays. I think they'll still be able to win. The Patriots do have a good defense, and that could give Brock Purdy some problems, but, he played well last week. He still got Brandon Ayuk. Jawan Jennings played really well. Had his best game as a pro last week. I think, and Jordan Mason has been running the football well. I think that's good enough here in this game. I think they should be able to get the win, and I think they should be able to cover the number. The Patriots' offense is not good. The 49ers, they should take advantage of that bad offensive line. And again, you do feel bad for Jacoby Brissett that he has to stand back there behind that line. That can't protect him. And the Patriots just could not get anything going last week. I thought maybe they'd be able to run the football a little bit because the Jets were struggling against the run, but that didn't even work. So, yeah, I think this is going to be another tough game for them, going up against a good defensive line that's missing some guys, but I think the Niners, they should bounce back and get the win. Now, if they don't, that's very concerning. That is very concerning if they end up losing this game, but they are at home. So, then another interesting game, got the Raiders and the Browns. The Raiders are 1.5-point favorites. Browns coming off of that 21-15 loss to the Giants. Raiders coming off of a 36-22 loss to the Panthers. And Gardner Minshew has got to play well in this game, otherwise Aiden O'Connell might be starting at some point. The Raiders, that was a disappointing loss for them. That was their home opener. And, against the Panthers, unfortunately, it was just wrong place, wrong time for them because Andy Dalton ended up starting. And if Bryce Young starts, they probably win that game. But Andy Dalton looked really good in that game. But still, I mean, the Raiders, I took the Panthers last week, so I'm not really upset about it. But, yeah, that's a game the Raiders probably should have won. But now they take on the Browns, and this could be a get-right game for them because that Browns offense continues to struggle. It has not looked great this year, and I think that's going to continue in this game. Now, you could say, all right, well, they're banged up on the offensive line. Nick Chubb, they're hopefully getting him back soon. That will make a difference, but ultimately, what's going to hold this team back from going anywhere this year is the quarterback position. Deshaun Watson has not played well, and I think that's going to continue. And it would not surprise me if he plays really bad in this game. Jameis Winston, maybe he gets the opportunity to start. It would not surprise me. And it's just, you go back to last year, and you see how, look at Joe Flacco coming in, and Joe Flacco played really well for the Browns. He operated that offense better than Deshaun Watson. Guy that got all that guaranteed money, that big contract, he has not lived up to it. And maybe he shows you something in this game, but again, you go back to the Giants game when they got the fumble recovery on the kickoff and he throws that pass to Amari Cooper. That was a great play. But it's just, there's not enough of that. There's not enough of that. And I said that going into the year. It's the consistency is not going to be there. Not only that, it's just Deshaun Watson has not played well. It's not really that he's been inconsistent this year. It's just he hasn't been good. He really hasn't put together a good game. Even though they've, they beat the Jaguars, but look at how the Jaguars are playing. So, I like the Raiders actually to win this game and cover the 1.5-point spread. But again, nothing will surprise me. The way these NFL weeks have gone so far, nothing would surprise me. And then the final game we got here is the Chiefs and the Chargers. Chargers are 7-point underdogs here. So Justin Herbert, I think he might play in this game. Because he left that game early against the Steelers. aggravated that ankle injury, but he might play. But either way, he's going to be compromised in this game. This game is actually very tough to pick because the Chiefs have not played great. They have not. Every single game that they've played has been a one-score game so far. Week 1 against the Ravens almost, scored a touchdown and they would have went for 2. So that could have been a 1-point game or a 1-point win or a 1-point loss. They barely beat the Bengals and they barely beat the Falcons. So I really have not been impressed by what I've seen from the Chiefs offense so far. Well, week 1 they looked good, even though Mahomes threw a bad pick. But against the Bengals, Mahomes wasn't great, and he really wasn't great against the Falcons either. So, we'll see if this is the game where they get it going. The Chargers, they're still in rebuild mode. If they can't play their style of game, running the football, keeping this game close, it's going to be tough. And Herbert's still trying to work on that rapport with his receivers. Now, Quentin Johnston has looked good so far. Elaine McConkey has scored a touchdown. J.K. Dobbins has looked good. So they do have some playmakers on this offense. But the other thing, too, is now that you think about it, banged up on the offensive line. Their quarterback is banged up. Yeah, it's going to be tough. I'm going to take the Chiefs to win and cover, but I do not feel great about it. I'm 1-2 so far picking Chiefs games. I did pick them in week 1, but that was a low spread. That was 2.5, I think. I took them against the Bengals. They didn't cover that. Then I switched and took the Falcons, and the Falcons, of course, don't cover, even though they had the opportunity to. So it would not surprise me if the Chargers do cover the spread, but I just feel like they're so banged up right now that I don't know. They're not going to be, if they're down multiple scores to the Chiefs, I don't think they're going to be able to come back. And on top of that, like I said, Herbert is compromised. So yeah, to go through it one more time, I got the Commanders with the points covering 49ers, Raiders, and Chiefs. So we'll see what happens. So far, I've gotten 7, 6, 7. Don't be surprised if I end up... Now, I did win last night. But I would not be surprised if it ends up not going my way again. And I end up with 7. Because that's how it was last year. 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 8. That's how it was. I need a good week. So, and already fantasy's not looking good. I went up against CeeDee Lamb in 3 leagues. So already I'm losing those. I started Devin Singletary in a league. Only got me 4 points. But, the fantasy app says, oh, he's a must start against the Cowboys. And I'm like, yeah, he is, because the Cowboys' run defense hasn't been good. Their defense has not been good in general. And Singletary did not play well. So, we'll see what happens. Hope everybody enjoyed the show today. Make sure to check out all the other shows. Give the other shows some love, like I always say. Any thoughts or comments that you may have, make sure to drop a like. Make sure to subscribe. Leave a comment on our videos. And like I said, hope you guys enjoyed the show today. So yeah, with that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back again on Monday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the games. And I will talk to you guys on Monday. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn.